Jim Hinkle.
Here.
Danny Loggins.
Here.
Michelle Manus.
Here.
Jason Ragland.
Here.
Cindy Seiler.
Here.
Andy Tree. Rick Watts.
Here.
Wayne Richard.
Here.
Judge, there's 7 present, 4 on this yes.
Jason, you want to lead some prayer? Father, we step into that, Lord. Thank you, Lord, for allowing us to live in this great country. Lord, as we remember this day, September 11th, such a tragedy, Lord, we just ask that you just continue to bring healing to those in our country that are still hurting because of that terrible disaster. Lord, we just ask that you just help see that that never happens again. And Lord, we ask that you would go with us through this meeting here tonight, Lord, that you would lead us and guide us, Lord, that your will be done, Lord, and help us, Lord, to just follow you. In Jesus' precious name.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we got old business, approved minutes.
Judge, may I have the floor, please? I would like to see that the journal of proceedings are amended to reflect the following. Resolution 2023-11, the vote does not reflect that Justice Watts was a yea vote, and therefore it is not accurately reflecting that vote taken last form court. So I move that we amend the minutes from August 14, 2023 to reflect Justice Watts's yea vote.
All in favor? The appropriation ordinance 2023-36. Appropriation ordinance 2023-36. Being enacted by the Quorum Court, the County of Searcy, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled to amend the 2023 annual operating budget and to appropriate funds and to allow the county judge to administer said appropriation. Whereas at the August 2023 Searcy County Quorum Court meeting, it was voted unanimously to give Leslie Arkansas Food Bank, Fishes and Loaves, a one-time grant of $2,500. Therefore, the following appropriation is approved. Fund 3046, American Rescue Plan, Office 0116, Grants and Aid, Account 3103, Grants and Aid, in the amount of $2,500. Whereas this ordinance herein enacted is an appropriation ordinance, and therefore is effective immediately. Motion and a second.
I make a motion that we approve appropriation ordinance 2023-36.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
We got appropriation ordinance 2023-37. Appropriation ordinance 2023-37. Being enacted by the Quorum Court of the County of Searcy, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled to amend the 2023 annual operating budget and to appropriate funds and to allow the county judge to administer said appropriation. Whereas at the August 2023 Searcy County Quorum Court meeting, the Quorum Court approved an appropriation to the Sheriff's Department for the purchase of a standby generator for the county jail, with said purchase to include installation and not to exceed $3,500, sorry. Therefore, the following appropriation is approved. Fund 3402, Jail Building and Maintenance, Office 0418, County Jail, Account 4004, Machinery and Equipment, amount $35,000. Whereas this ordinance herein enacted is an appropriation ordinance and therefore is effective immediately.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 2023-37. I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Code of Ordinances 2023-38.
Ordinance number 2023-38. An ordinance enacting a court of ordinances for the county of Searcy, state of Arkansas, revising, amending, restating, codifying, and compiling certain existing general ordinances of the political subdivision dealing with subjects embraced in such code of ordinances and declaring an emergency. Whereas the ordinances of Searcy County, Arkansas are inadequately classified to such an extent as to render them non-conductive to searches by either county officials or the general public. And whereas Arkansas Code annotated 14.14.903 empowers and authorizes Searcy County, Arkansas to revise, amend, restate, codify, and compile any existing ordinances and all new ordinances not heretofore adopted or published, and to incorporate such ordinances into one unified code in book form. And whereas the Quorum Court of Searcy County, Arkansas has authorized a general compilation, revision, and codification of the ordinances of Searcy County, Arkansas of a general and permanent nature, and the publication of such ordinance in a book form. And whereas the codification of the ordinances of Searcy County, Arkansas is necessary to provide for the usual daily operations of Searcy County, Arkansas, and for the immediate preservation of the public peace, health, safety, and general welfare of Searcy County, Arkansas, that this ordinance shall be in full force and effort from and after the date of its passage. Whereas this code of ordinances of Searcy County has been filed in the county clerk's office and available for inspection a minimum of 30 days prior to its adoption as required by ACA 14.14.909. Now therefore be it ordained by the Quorum Court of Searcy County, Arkansas. 1. The general ordinances of Searcy County, Arkansas is revised, amended, restated, codified, and compiled in book form are hereby adopted as and shall constitute the Code of Ordinances of Searcy County, Arkansas. 2. Such Code of Ordinances as adopted in Section 1 shall consist of the following chapters. Chapter 1, General Provisions. Chapter 2, Administration. Chapter 3, Law Enforcement. Chapter 4, Taxes. Chapter 5, Public Records. Chapter 6, Agriculture and Livestock. Chapter 7, Animals. Chapter 8, Community Services. Chapter 9, Emergency Services. Chapter 10, Human Services. Chapter 11, Public Works. Chapter 12, Roads and Transportation. Chapter 13, Urban and Rural Development. And Chapter 14, Other County Services. The repealer. All prior ordinances pertaining to the subjects addressed in this Code of Ordinances are hereby repealed from the effective date of this ordinance, unless they are included and reordained in whole or in part in this code, provided such repeal shall not affect any offense committed or penalty incurred or any right established prior to the effective date of this ordinance. Nor shall such repeal affect ordinances which levy taxes, appropriate funds, annex or detach territory, establish franchises, or grant special rights to persons, authorize public improvements, authorize the issuance of bonds or borrowing of money, authorize the purchase of sale of real or personal property, grant or accept easements, plat or dedication of land to public use, vacate or set the boundaries of streets and other public places. Nor shall such repeal affect any other ordinance of a temporary or special nature or pertaining to subjects not contained in or covered by the code. Number 4, such code shall be deemed published as of the day of its adoption and approval by the county judge of Searcy County, Arkansas. The county clerk of Searcy County, Arkansas is hereby authorized and ordered to file a copy of such code of ordinances in the office of the county clerk. Number 5, the emergency clause. This ordinance is declared to be an emergency measure necessary for the immediate preservation of the peace, health, safety, and general welfare of the people of Searcy County, Arkansas, and therefore, this ordinance shall be in full force and effect from the date before and after the date of its passage.
I did review the Code of County ordinances that Clerk had assembled, and it does carry forward the ordinances that were not in the previous copy given to us, and so from what I've seen, it does look to be current and in good order. And I'll make a motion that we approve.
Say motion on emergency clause.
Oh, okay.
Emergency clause.
Well, you need to, it's a general ordinance, and you can pass it one of two ways. 3 separate readings or with an emergency clause. There is an emergency clause. My recommendation is that you hold a vote on the ordinance, and then you have a separate vote to pass the emergency clause.
I'll make a motion that we approve ordinance 2023-38.
Do a roll call on that?
Yes.
Do a roll call.
Roll call. Tim Hinkle.
Yes.
Danny Loggins. Michelle Manus.
Yes.
Jason Ragland.
Yes.
Cindy Siler.
Yes.
Andy Tree. Not here. Rick Watts.
Yes.
Wayne Witcher.
Yes.
We need to roll on
I'll make a motion that we declare an emergency pertaining to ordinance, the passage of ordinance 2023-38, and suspend the rule for 3 consecutive readings.
Well, actually, your motion stands on its own. You don't need to suspend any rules, because you're following Arkansas code behind the emergency clause, so just a motion to adopt the emergency clause.
I make a motion that we adopt the emergency clause pertaining to ordinance 2023-38.
I'll second it.
that. Roll call.
Tim Hinkle.
Yes.
Danny Loggins. Michelle Manus.
Yes.
Jason Ragland. Cindy Siler.
Yes.
Rick Watts.
Yes.
Wayne Witcher.
Yes.
Next, we got appropriation ordinance 2023-39.
Appropriation ordinance 2023-39, being enacted by the Quorum Court of the County of Searcy, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled to amend the 2023 annual operating budget and reappropriation for various funds, and to appropriate funds and to allow the county judge to administer said appropriation. Whereas additional funding is requested by Sheriff Castle, and whereas funds are available, therefore the following appropriation is approved. Fund 1,000, County General Fund, Office 400, Sheriff, Account 2494, Housing the Prisoners. Amount $74,754.40. Whereas this ordinance herein enacted is an appropriation ordinance and therefore is effective immediately.
So do you want me to explain that?
Please.
Okay, so, I noticed in 3498 fund that there was that line item for housing prisoners in 309s. And so I emailed the auditor and asked her, was it to be in 3498 or was it to be in 1000? And her answer was, this is the ACA that establishes the jail fund. Only those fines and fees should be going into that. I have attached the county financial management manual and those notes from the last audit, which shows which Arkansas codes and ordinances set up for this fund. Even though you have accounts set up in Apprentice, that doesn't mean that you should be using them. You might want to make sure that they're correct per the manual. So I looked at the manual, and in county general, there is to be a line item on housing prisoners and not in 3498 fund. And that's where it has been. But when you go back from 2018 to 2022, they were always putting it into the county general. I mean, like, I went back and looked at all of their anticipated and how they done all their stuff. It was going into that, but there was no line item created into that fund. So that's that's why we created this this line item, so that way, when I code it out, and I go to do your anticipated next month, to bring it forward, it's gonna show in county general exactly how much money they've brought in. This is how much money they've brought in for the year so far. And that's how come we're having to take it from there and show in the line item that they brought in $74,754. And it's just gonna go right into that county general sheriff's fee. And they can move it wherever they want to, from the county general to 3498 or however they wanna use it. But they get a check monthly from the ADC for their prisoners.
So ADC, those funds were landing in Fund 1000.
Yes, but
And so it was masked by Fund 1000, and so I think it was at the request of the budget committee to go and identify those funds. That's
Yes.
why this fund is being created.
Yes,
And so now the sheriff has the right to pull it into 3498, or can he pull it into his sheriff's fund?
well, right now it's sitting in his sheriff. If he chooses to pull it into 3498, of course, we'll have to do, an order or whatever to pull it into 3498. But if he chooses to put it there, yes, but it has to be coded into the county general. It cannot be coded into 3498 just because we want it to be.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So it would be moved from 1000
Yes,
into
34.
one of those. But you're saying it could either go into 3498 or it could go into the sheriff fund.
Yes,
So it's his discretion.
it's his discretion. But right now, your jail fund is sitting at a negative 11,000.
But what about the process of budget? You budget those funds, and so how will we handle this next year? Because we're going to be looking at that as a line item, and how would we know which
It's gonna
fund
show
it
up
would
under
be?
county.
Would it be, you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, it'll show up under county general.
You're gonna do an anticipated, and how are you gonna anticipate? You're gonna anticipate into 3498 or into that sheriff fund?
Into the sheriff's fund. It'll have to be anticipated into the county general sheriff.
So then that means that the funds that come out of the general fund into the sheriff's department might be then moved from the sheriff's department into 3498.
And we've got a guy from Izard County coming down Friday, and probably the next week a little bit to help us with anticipated. He's gonna sit down and show us how to do it and how it's done hopefully the right way. So that way, when I come back in October, you'll have an anticipated budget. to look at.
Discussion? The motion is second.
Make a motion to appropriate ordinance 2023-39. $74,754.40.
A second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Okay. We got appropriation ordinance 2023-40.
Appropriation ordinance 2023-40, being enacted by the Quorum Court of the County of Searcy, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled to amend the 2023 annual operating budget to establish Fund 5335, Office of Emergency Management Grant, and to appropriate funds and to allow the county judge to administer said appropriation. Whereas the county received grant money from the State of Arkansas Department of Emergency Management, therefore, the following appropriation is approved. Fund 3553, OEM grant, Office 500, Office of Emergency Management, account 4700, disaster. Amount $214,431.73. Whereas this ordinance herein enacted as an appropriation ordinance is therefore is effective immediately.
Motion is second.
Judge, may I ask a question? This fund, which department will be able to draw on this fund? Will it be the road department?
Yes.
And I'm just curious, what disaster happened to
It's the snowstorm.
the snowstorm? So we need more snowstorms. Make a motion that we approve appropriation ordinance 2023-40.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? appropriation ordinance 2023-41.
Appropriation ordinance 2023-41, being enacted by the Quorum Court, the County of Searcy, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled to amend the 2023 annual operating budget to establish Fund 3550, LATCF grant, and to appropriate funds and to allow the county judge to administer said appropriation. Whereas the county received grant money from the state of Arkansas treasurer of the state, therefore the following appropriation is approved for Fund 3550, LATCF, fiscal year 23 allocation, in the amount of $222,413.89. This ordinance herein enacted is an appropriation ordinance and therefore is effective immediately.
What's this money for?
Well, this money is, we call it the Indian money, like when we got $222,000 last year at around the same time, so this is the second payment of that grant. And it has to have, each grant, which I didn't know this until lately, each grant that we receive within the county, we have to create their own fund. That's the only fund that they have to use that fund to spend out of, because the following year, we have to show proof of where that money was spent and how it was spent. So that's why these two grants have been created.
So where can this money be?
This is road.
Road two?
This is machinery.
Second.
Make a motion that we approve appropriation ordinance 2023-41.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Now we're going to new business. I'm gonna ask Chad.
Judge, this ordinance 2023 which is not, is this new business?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry, my apologies.
Okay. So at last month's meeting, Quorum Court passed by a vote of 6-2 resolution to adopt paper ballots for your next election. I speculated that there might be some further work that the Quorum Court needs to do as far as passing either the resolution or really actually what I thought possibly some sort of ordinance, sort of clean everything up, make sure everything would be in compliance with Arkansas law and we don't have anything in conflict with your existing code of ordinances. So in the ensuing month, I've conferred with your county clerk to kind of scour the code, see if there's anything that might be concerned we might need to look at. I think we found one ordinance that was passed in the 1990. Yeah, and it referred an issue on an election machine to a vote, but we don't believe there's actually a vote. There's certainly no record of a vote.
We could not find any record of any vote ever being taken.
And at any rate, I believe those machines have been replaced maybe 2 times over since then. So I don't believe there's anything there that was concerning that would require any sort of action on the Quorum Court's part. I also inquired with AAC for some sort of legal opinion on their end to see if they believe there's anything further needed. And they did not recommend, or the contacted AAC did not recommend any further action. What appears, I think I'm confident saying today that a resolution is sufficient to adopt a paper ballot system. And I did not see any deficiencies with the resolution that we passed last month. Okay, so all that being said, you don't have anything that I prepared that I would recommend passage. There's not anything referred to me to consider for placing on the agenda. So at this point, I don't have a recommendation that any further action be taken by the Quorum Court to move forward with your paper ballots.
I would like to make a comment. I would like to address the Quorum Court and also the audience. This issue has become a definite wedge issue in our county. It's become a wedge issue in our state, and this is a wedge issue nationally. And I would like to comment on some reports that came out directly after the vote that the Quorum Court made last month. It was an Arkansas official, I want to specifically address this, that stated in an interview at one of the state news networks that it is the mistrust that is imagined because they don't understand. In other words, the JPs, this Quorum Court, the commissioners, both parties, their committees, the individuals in the community. The statement was made that we have mistrust that is imagined because we don't understand. And I want to tell you something, I take issue with that. Immediately after that vote, post-vote, I had several individuals from around the nation contact me. I didn't solicit their contact, they contacted me. These are cyber security experts. That's how they make their living. They are experts. And I didn't ask for their opinion, but they led me down this path and explained to me the process of why some individuals do not trust the system. Last Quorum Court, my vote, I made it clear that I do not believe Searcy County is a target to be hacked. I don't believe we will ever be a target to be hacked. But there are a lot of individuals in this county that came to myself and other JPs, and they made their voice heard. And as a representative, it is our mission to hear the people. And if there are people who have an opinion on the other side, then their voice should have been heard also. And so my vote was based on the vast majority of those people who came to me with their issue. And I take issue with some individual in Little Rock basically saying that we are just ignorant people up here that do not understand how computers work and that we have imagined mistrust. That's a very clever way to say that we believe in conspiracies. And I take issue with that, and this is my only chance to make this statement, so I'm going to make this statement. The issue is a real mistrust of the process, and given events over the last several years, that mistrust is very understandable. It's a mistrust of the process in this state and across this nation. And I do not think it's fair for Searcy County to be targeted by people at the state level and at the national level because we make the choice that we want to determine how we hold our elections, which we have the constitutional right to do. I think that the issue, these cybersecurity experts that contacted me were not Conrad Reynolds. That guy is a lightning rod. These are other people. And I would also like to state that we amended the resolution to state that should there be a problem with this election, then we can easily revert back to the former system, the former process. I also will tell you that I do not like quorum courts, other than our quorum court, jumping the fence with emails telling us how we should run our county. That is, I think, is bad form. And so, you know, we should run our county the way we see as fit, and those counties should run their quorum court the way they see as fit. They will run their reports, we ran our report. Should it be that the numbers that we have are not accurate, then we will reverse course. I'll be the first one to make a motion to reverse course if we find out that this is a burden that our county should not go bear. So that's all I got to say about that. Recognize Commissioner Gross.
Can I come forward? I'm assuming by what you said that you guys are getting a few hysterical responses about the cost. Emails, texts, phone calls, we're getting them too. I've heard everything from it's going to increase the cost of your election 2 times to it's going to bankrupt your county and everything in between. I want to remind you, Pulaski County, every election day uses paper ballots. I don't know if they're bankrupt or not, but I suspect that if it costs that much, they probably wouldn't be using paper ballots in Pulaski County. I just want to put your mind at ease. There are 3 places where you spend money when you print a paper ballot. The first is in the layout of the ballot. ES&S lays out our ballots. They put it in not a JPEG, a PDF. And they do it for us every election. We pay for it because we have to print our absentee ballots. So they do all our layout, we pay them already. That is a price that we're already paying. It's not going up at all. The second place is in printing the ballots, and I told you guys in your report, it's 40 cents a ballot. They're ballots with the watermark on them. They have a perforated tab. They're numbered for security. It's gonna cost between $3,000 and $4,000 to print the ballots depending on what size our election is that year. And the third place is in payroll. If you're gonna have to hire people to count the ballots. And I told you it costed between $2,000 and $3,000 to increase our payroll. That is what it cost to print ballots. That is not gonna bankrupt this county. I don't think you guys expected to whack that hornet's nest and not get a blowback. There's some people that are really angry. You should probably think about why they're angry. I know one reason they're angry, because they wanted us to just let them decide everything we would do in our county, and you guys refused to lay down and play dead and let them do it. I just want to encourage you, when you guys made that vote last month, you lit a lamp of hope and you put it in the window for all the groups around this county who also are tired of playing dead and just laying down and letting it happen. Don't back down. Don't second guess yourself. It is not going to bankrupt the county. And if somebody tells you it's going to, say, show me the numbers. We are going to keep good records. We're working with the clerk. At the end of the election, you guys will know every penny we spent on the election. And I'll be the first one to say, if it costs more than we thought it was in a substantial way, I'll be with Wayne. Let's go back to the old way. Thank you, guys.
Okay, we got Searcy County Senior Centers, anybody here? We'll go on to resolution 2023-14.
Resolution number 2023-14. A resolution declaring a vacancy in the office of Justice of the Peace, District 1 of Searcy County, Arkansas. Whereas the Searcy County Quorum Court has the responsibility and legal obligation to declare a vacancy when needed. And whereas Ronald Ragland held the position of District 1 Justice of the Peace until his resignation August 17th, 2023. And whereas there is a need to declare a vacancy for the position of District 1 Justice of the Peace, now therefore be it resolved by the Quorum Court of Searcy County, Arkansas, a vacancy is declared to exist in the office of Justice of the Peace, District 1 of Searcy County, Arkansas, from the resignation of the duly elected Justice of the Peace, the Honorable Ronald Ragland.
Motion second.
I make a motion we declare a vacancy.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Next we got, Jim talk about Law Library Board.
First, I apologize for having me to bring this up. About a 2-minute, tell you why I'm bringing this. There's a room across from my office that we sort of have control over that's been just stacked with junk. Old machines, chairs, tables, anything that nobody wanted got stuffed in that room. And so it's used for several things. One of them being the election commissioners meet there, and then that's where we do the election night, and now we're gonna count paper ballots in there. So I wanted to clean it up, make it better, and the law library's in there. That those shelving units on the right-hand side is where all the library is at. And so I looked into the possibility of purchasing a modest little conference table, and I also want to put that kiosk that I showed you that paper on last time. And I want to put a nice chest-high table in there where the computer and the printer can stand and people can self-serve on their legal forms and other things. So I looked into the possibility of buying those couple things, the conference table with 4 chairs. Nobody knew who controlled that fund in the building. If there was some knowledge, it went away with the last retired person. And so I looked into who might control that money. And no one knew in the building, and we asked for some guidance. The very next day, I got a call from Mr. Patterson, who said that he was the chairman of the law library and on no certain terms could use any money out of that fund, nor would he approve any request for any purchases. So I looked at all of the paperwork that I find in Quorum Court, and I could never find anything that showed the law library was ever set up, a board was established, or anything else. And so I sent a little memo to Mr. Patterson, asking him just to tell me when he was appointed, and asked if he knew any ordinance. And so I got this letter back right here from him, basically slapping me down and saying he was in charge and had been since 1970. And he quotes something out of the law book, and I looked it up, and sure enough, there's provision for the board and everything else. But if he started in 1970, the term is 5 years, so we're about 48 years out. Overdue. And so I could never find anywhere that the library board was ever originally established. So I didn't say re-established, I said established. I included the 3 attorneys that you requested. I'm trying to do what he has asked me to do. His letter answered some questions I didn't even ask. But what I'm looking for is to establish the library board, put 3 attorneys from this county on that board, and then maybe the other 2 will be a little more reasonable than the person I've been talking to. And so all this does is establish a library board. So it's an administrative thing. One thing, and it has to be 3 members, attorneys, and staggered years that they come off the board. So I left blanks in there, so you put 5, 4, and 3 for the 3 attorneys. And then it can rotate. Since we don't have many attorneys in this county, it may be the same people each time. But at least this establishes it and puts it in writing. I also asked that the clerk, not by name but by title, be assigned as a librarian. Since we're doing that work already, all the stuff comes to us, the supplements, the books, pamphlets, all come to my office. And so I believe we should be the librarian at a minimum. And then I will talk with the board and see if they might possibly approve some furniture for that room that is professional looking, that the election commission can use a little bit wider. They can use it when they're counting the ballots and other things. And so I'm just trying to make that a usable space and make it look like we care. And so that's what this ordinance is about.
Mr. Brown, would this need to be written as an advisory board or administrative board, or does it matter?
That's a good question. So my understanding is that it is an administrative board in the way that it's drawn up in the code.
Should it be amended to say administrative board?
Well, I think it's whatever board is authorized by the code. But yes, you might clear that up a little bit by cleaning that up. I'll say the same thing I said when you passed the code of ordinance. This is a general ordinance, so you'll have to have 3 separate readings. or suspend the rules to dispense with the second and third reading, or pass emergency clause, which I'm not really sure what the emergency would be in this case, but, one of those mechanisms we'd have to go to pass this general ordinance.
It's not their county law.
So I forget the very complicated procedure that is involved in amending a general ordinance which requires 3 consecutive days of reading. Do we have?
I'm not looking at, we wanna do it through.
I mean, we can do it here, I'm just wanna make sure, or do we just need to not worry with administrative versus
So-
amending this?
1623-102, it's an administrative board, it's a board that would be, you know,
So by
government-
definition, it would be.
Yeah, fits the definition of an administrative board. I mean, it's pursuant to the code, so I don't really know that it's necessary to change anything on that.
Well, I just have one question. Mr. Patterson is a newly elected quorum. Can he be on county budget, can he be on the board?
It's the exact question I had when I read this, and I'm glad you asked it instead of me. I don't know the answer, I really don't, we probably need to get an opinion on it.
So that wouldn't preclude us passing this ordinance? Yes.
Well,
Well, he has a name who would be on this, well, he has a name who would be on it.
it does name,
Yeah, it does.
it's, so conceptually, if you pass this tonight and you have someone who's not eligible to hold this position, you, if anything, just have someone that you nominated to the position that really can't accept it. Although you can certainly come back and be certain when you wanna come back next month and know. But I don't know, it's an administrative board, which means that by its nature is gonna carry
I don't think you can, because you
administrative
can't,
function and so
like
on.
the Civic Center Administrative Board, which we passed, I think I remember reading that a JP could not sit on that administrative board, that's for sure, so I don't know that you could have an elected official sit on that board. I don't think you can.
Yeah, if I had to say right now, I would say I think you might be ineligible to serve, but I don't really wanna just speculate on that, I wanna have an answer.
I'm pretty sure it would be, because for sure, JPs could not sit on this, Civic Center board, that was for sure.
Yeah,
Table it to next month.
Don't worry.
Make a motion table.
Make a motion that we table that ordinance 2023-unknown for the next meeting.
Second. All in favor? Okay, Jim's got something else. County website.
Okay, last month I asked to be able to look into, county website, for, county business and other things that, dealt with the Searcy County government. This is not gonna be open to other things in Searcy County. You might wanna just put things on a website. This is for us and us only. The apprentice, the people that we use for our financial, things such as payroll and others, has given us, this information for establishing a website for Searcy County, which would be searcyco.org. So we would have, when somebody put in Searcy County, we would pop up somewhere on that list. Hopefully we could move up high, but somewhere on the list, our website would come in. And if they clicked on it, then it would show the county elected officials, the JPs, as far as personnel go, and then other, as you see there's other things that we plan to put on the website. Because I'm using monies out of the fund, we are going to use it to, show court dates, talk about jury duty and other things, but anything that deals with the county. There's also another benefit that we can post the ordinances on this, and that would be a means of putting it out because I just flat do not have the money to put it in the newspaper. And so,
I thought that the last legislative session did not legalize bypassing paper publication in favor of, digital. That was a big deal. I don't think that they're gonna allow that.
well, we'll have to come up with some money. Because right now, I'm actually in the hole when it comes to publishing.
It was a very big deal, and I think the legislature made a mistake not allowing you to do that, but nonetheless, we are going to have to bear the cost of publishing our ordinances in paper.
And we anticipate that, but this will be another
And I still
means.
support this immensely. I think it's great.
So, I do have the money to do this, and so if there's nobody that really hits me over the head, I'm gonna sign the contract tomorrow. And within 10-15 days, we'll have our own website. I've put a little thing attached to this. I am gonna put the JPs in there by name, but if you don't want anything else, I won't. I'll put as much or as little as you want. All you have to do is tell me what you want.
Based on this sheet.
Based on that sheet. Or I put a little line in there that says anything else. So I left myself a way out.
Less is better.
Yeah, but if less is better for you, then you don't have to put any in. That's up to including your photograph, because the elected officials will have a photo next to their title and phone numbers and emails and other things.
We have something to this, Jeff, that we can look at, like it's up and running in another
No.
county.
Oh, well, in another county, I don't know about that, but they work pretty quick, so we've already got pictures that we're gonna, like, when you pull it up on the computer, when you start the county, like, we've got some pictures that we're gonna put up there that will, you know, tie in Searcy County with like the river or.
Courthouse.
Courthouse, yeah, we've got a really pretty picture of the courthouse, and so, as soon as we send that in for him tomorrow, they will immediately start working on it, and we can have something to show you within probably next week. But now, I don't know about any other counties that has that, and I don't know how many counties use Prentice and who doesn't.
I applaud you, Clerk Cotton. I think it is a very good idea. Thank you for doing this.
And I've had a lot of help from the treasurer's office. Actually, Ms. Loggins in the treasurer's office is gonna be the administrator. And so she will have the ability to put up or take down, stuff on the website. We will control our own website.
And she's also gonna be taking the pictures of all of us, the elected officials.
And yours if you want.
And yours, if you want them.
Any questions?
When you need this invite.
Well, we'll add it to it at any point, so, you know, you just get it to me whenever you want to. That's all I have on that.
I just have one, I'll be pretty brief with what I've got. I'm on the committee to look at the properties that we're considering. Looked at 3 properties, we looked at the Rogers building next door. Looked at the K&H building on the end, and we looked at the Ben Franklin building, across the square. All I'm gonna give you tonight is just kind of square footage price, you know, and there's a couple of buildings that I think, if the Quorum Court decides we do wanna expand the property, there's 2 of the 3 that I think would be worth looking at. K&H building on the end, $199,900, 5,668 square feet. It's gonna take a lot of renovation, It does have a new roof, it's got an upstairs without an elevator. Don't think would be a feasible space for us to use. So, in my opinion, you know, for what we need it for, I don't think it would be worth a look. The next is a building next door that, it's 2,950 square feet, $195,000. Does have a lot of recent updates, new AC unit, does have a bathroom. Seller is pretty set on price. not 100% sure she wants to sell, so no wiggle room on that, you know. The third is the Ben Franklin building across the square. It's 8,000 square feet at $175,000. I know we didn't talk about it in the beginning, but, a lot of square footage for your money, and I do think if we're gonna look for something, if we did decide as a court to buy something at the cost for square footage, it's definitely worth a look. One thing I would like, if we did decide to look at that building, I'd wanna get somebody to look at it, because it does have downstairs. Make sure structurally it was okay to have offices upstairs, which has had tons of furniture on it for years, and I don't anticipate that being a problem. But
It's got a lot of storage underneath, a lot.
it will take some renovation, but as far as square footage wise, you know, I would lean more towards that one, but this one is closer, a lot less renovation, it's next door, you know.
Well, I hate to open this can of worms this late. But what is happening is work, you know, people have been asking me why we would wanna do this, and so, would you be willing to spend a moment or two, and explain why we are even looking at these buildings?
Well, it's, a lot of it needs storage space, and they need store offices. I'd like to get the ones upstairs, you know, out of there into their own office and stuff, and we need another meeting room. And we're not, on the bigger part, we don't have to use the whole thing. We can just fix what we need. Later on, you need something else, you can go in and add more office space. It's office space, it's storage space, we're kind of run out of it.
So the issue is the prosecutors, which are upstairs, and kind of in a precarious position up there. And, I mean, I'm not advocating for or against it, but I think it should be noted that this annex was bought for the purpose of moving some personnel out, you know, these buildings over here, for the purpose of moving people out of the courthouse because there was a overcrowding issue. And so, is that the scenario that you're looking at in securing this other?
There'll be still people at the courthouse, trying to get the ones out of upstairs and a better spot, bigger space. More secure. The storage, we ain't got no storage nowhere. Over there, they clean up room for meeting rooms. Just more space.
Where are you planning on taking the money for that?
Well, there's several ways that we could approach this. There are grants
There is grants,
which
right?
allow for that.
Mhm.
There are also, funding opportunities from other funds.
Well, I was just gonna say, that you probably need to quit giving away some money if you're gonna buy a building.
Right, and that's,
And I'm all for people getting money, I'm not saying that, but if you're looking into buying a building, right now you have $236,000 in there.
okay, so that was the question that I had last month and the month before. We did not budget a fund because we had a fund that was pulled out of this last year and the year previous pertaining to the countywide safety communication system. I don't think all of those monies have been drawn upon. So how many monies are still left?
At least 75,000, if not more.
So you're telling me there's, how much in that fund?
200 and I think 46,000.
So it's 246,000, and you say there's still 75,000?
Something like that, because wasn't Gary telling us something about $70-something thousand the other day?
That's
that
not a
was
number
gonna-
I've heard 30.
He's got the radio deal, they had spent all of it.
Yeah.
They, you know, they drawed up for everybody that bought the radios with. The guy, he drawed his part of it out,
Yeah.
doing all the work.
Right, I heard that was 30, some odd, but,
Oh.
no, but that's to the
I hope
point,
it's 30.
that's to the point of why, Judge was going to probably bring a resolution to the court tonight, which was going to halt spending out of that fund, because that's the problem. We don't know where the level mark is on
And we
this.
should have halted about 2 months ago. Honestly, if I'm being honest with you,
Well, I know that I smelled something up because I had done my research and had figured that we were spending money, but it wasn't being reflected in the fund amount because those monies weren't being drawn upon. But the only thing that I know that has been drawn upon is the communication system.
The communication system, we've got the factory, the communication system, and then all of the stuff that you guys have gave, the fair,
But that's all been drawn.
yeah, well, I mean, OHAC just now got theirs, and I still haven't done, did we do it for the, shelter?
No, well,
Okay.
yeah, it's 2,500.
Yeah, I've still not done that. It's not been drawn out either.
Oh, the dots.
No, the dots has been, I'm talking about the dog shelter. They got like, what, 2,500 or 3,000, something like that. I've still not wrote that out.
Spending any more out of that.
Yeah, I mean, like,
Well,
It's gotta
you
be
need
shut
to
down.
draw the line.
We said this the last two quorum courts though,
Yeah.
we said
It's still
that,
voting.
and then it's really hard to turn a food bank down, think of the children. So, you know,
We still got a little donation bill too.
Yes.
Probably 5,000.
so what I'm saying is that we have to pass a resolution that is like real and firm and says we don't spend no more until we're able to figure out what's at least in that fund.
Well, I mean, I
I
can
mean,
go
we've
over
done
there
this
right now and tell you
two
exactly.
quorum courts in a row, it has to be binding.
You want me to draw it up and say that don't spend any more money? You want me to draw up something right now that says, please, her, the treasurer of the county, do not spend any more money?
Well, we did have the senior center.
Yeah, they didn't show up.
They didn't show up.
I think that we should do what we said we'd do 2 months ago,
Yeah.
last month.
Absolutely.
And then draw a line and no more spending, which means that anybody that comes to the court and says, the judge's office says, we want to come before the quorum court, I think that the word should be given to them then, that there is a moratorium on that fund until further notice.
Yes, absolutely.
They still want to present, so be it, that.
All right,
Yeah, they
There
could
will be
present
no
it, I mean,
money.
absolutely
There'll be no
present it,
money
but, I
awarded.
mean, yeah.
I make a motion for the third quorum court in a row,
Yeah.
that a moratorium is set in place and that we do not even, listen to requests coming forward until we find out for sure what's left in that fund.
Absolutely.
Second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Anybody got anything else? Judge, got something.
Special election for the city of Marshall for 1 penny, tax increase. Our election commission will have to run that election, but the city will foot the bill, so it won't cost the county anything to run that election, but our folks will be handling it, but we will be reimbursed.
Anything else?
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Maybe two.